There's one thing here that I find inconsistent between your actions and your explanation of them. And you're very good at explaining where you're coming from, and this is where I have the disconnect. Because you appointed Roland Burris after you had been arrested, after the wiretap transcripts were released, Illinois is now stuck for 2 years with a senator who has zero political potency. It's no slur on Mr. Burris or anything that brought him to this point or that caused you to appoint him, but his legacy is now tainted by his association with this criminal case against you, and the people of Illinois are stuck for 2 years with an impaired senator, a politically impaired senator. Do you feel guilty about that? That's not in their best interest.
No, in fact, I feel like I did my duty. Let me explain something to you. And in spite of all the hue and cry from my senior Senator Dick Durbin, we're not taking him, and Harry Reid, we're not taking him, we're not going to seat him. If I didn't make that appointment, I would have jeopardized our state. Our state would have been denied a U.S. senator, a vote and a voice in the United States Senate.
For a period of time.
That, on my judgment, would have been an impeachable offense, because I have a constitutional duty to appoint a senator and fill a vacancy so Illinois is properly represented. Now, they said after all this happened, these lawmakers, that they were going to pass a law and allow the people to make that decision. I support that.
You wouldn't have vetoed that.
I would have signed it. The people should choose, not governors. Governor Patterson here or me, we shouldn't be in a position to do that. The people should decide it. But when they talked a big game and didn't do it, then the only alternative was to listen to them and not appoint anybody, which is what they were doing because they had their own deal in place for who they wanted, or to make the best possible choice I could make at that time. Now, who did I pick? I picked a historic figure, and I picked a senator for the U.S. Senate where there wasn't an African American after Barack Obama was elected president. I picked a historic figure in Illinois who was the first African American elected to statewide office, who as a young man was a law clerk for Thurgood Marshall, who was a former attorney general in our state for 2 terms, comptroller in our state for 2 terms, a man of impeccable integrity, and a man who will get reelected. A man who was going to not just be senator for 2 years, but has said he's going to run again, and I'm certain will get reelected.
There's tarnish on his political legacy because of the way in which he was appointed, because you could have waited. You could have said, you know, this should be settled. This appointment will be made once these allegations against me are settled, either by the person who replaces me or by me once I've cleared my name.
Well, no, because first, Illinois would have suffered because we wouldn't have had a senator, and I was not going to resign for something that I didn't do that was wrong and be run out of town because other people had a political agenda and they had their own senators that they wanted. And secondly, Roland Burris and his career as a senator and his legacy and his record before that is not at all involved in any of these allegations about me.
No,
and it's just so unfair to him to hold him somehow responsible for allegations on me. Yeah. He'll be judged on his own record as senator, and I predict he'll do a great job. He'll be reelected, and I'll point out, he has never lost a statewide office to a Republican. Now, he's lost some primaries to Democrats. He lost to me for governor in 2002. He lost to Mayor Daley for mayor of Chicago. He lost to Paul Simon for the Senate seat.
You're not selling his record all that great.
But he's won every statewide office against Republicans, and I don't see a Democrat in Illinois who would want to challenge a man like that, a historic figure, and the only African American in the United States Senate. Why would a Democrat in Illinois want to run against him and deprive the African?
Because of his association with you.
Well, he'll win. He'll win that race, and he'll win big.
You probably have a political ally in Roland Burris for life now. You don't have very many other political allies. You have become a national figure in a way that I'm sure was not the way that you wanted to become a national figure. Are you mad?
I'm not mad. I'm philosophical about it. Dr. King had a quote, and he said that in the end, you remember not the words of your enemies, but the silence of your friends. And when something like this happens to you, it becomes very lonely. And people who were in your office just the day before, people who were calling you constantly because they had needs and wants and were excessively obsequious. And if this was a private conversation, I'd had another way to say it.
Yeah.
Kissing.
Yeah.
You know, once this happened, you know, they're nowhere to be found. And if you tried to call them, they wouldn't call them back. So you know you don't even bother calling them. But that's kind of part of this business. And I understand a lot of it. That's why Harry Truman said, in Washington, it applies to politics, you know, if you want a friend, get a dog. And that's why you find comfort with your family. And for us, my wife and I, the most difficult part is our 2 daughters, our little girls, and our 12-year-old especially, who is a lot more aware of what's happening than our little 5-year-old. And that's another reason why, you know, I'm simply not going to, I'm not going to acknowledge things that aren't true or say that I did something wrong when I didn't. because I don't want to shame my children, and much better for their father to fight to the very end for principles that are bigger than him, and this one is the office of the governor and the right to be able to show he didn't do anything wrong that's being taken away from the people of Illinois, than to simply accept something and somehow look like you did something wrong when you didn't. So, you know, the chances are I'll be looking for work in the next several days, but we'll get on and I'll vindicate myself.
You'll be working full-time on your criminal defense after this?
I need to find some, you know, I'll have to find some employment in some place, and I'll do that. We'll rebuild our lives, and we're not unlike the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people across America who unfortunately are losing their jobs because this economy is so bad. And like them, we'll get back to basics, and we'll begin the process of rebuilding our lives.
Governor Blagojevich, thank you for taking the time.
Rachel.
Good luck to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So that was my close encounter with Governor Rod Blagojevich of Illinois today.